and bring this caucus session into order. Tonight we are meeting with a special meeting with the agenda before us to vote on the resolution and discuss here in caucus the resolution that's before us regarding the Harbor Place. We have a set of conditions that we've laid out, but this is our opportunity right now as council to discuss before we move into the meeting where we're going to vote. So I'm going to pause and see if we do have a couple guests here this evening, if we would like to ask any questions of them, so that's in front of us as well. But I want to pause and kind of open the floor up to council to see if we want to go through the resolution, if there's any questions on the conditions that we have laid out, while we have the solicitor and everyone here.
Can we just go over some of the changes? If on a whole, no one got to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Specifics.
Jason, are you ready for the hot seats?
Just the material changes.
Yes.
Let me see here. So, I don't know if I would agree that they were material. Just that they were already in place and the changes reflect the original intent of the document. Okay, so number one, condition was unchanged. The number two section, there was the original draft had what was called contiguous areas. However, that presents a barrier for because it can't be continuous, because the whole campus, I'll call it a campus for lack of a better word, involves stuff north of Front Street and south of Front Street. So you can't really make a contiguous area that's all green space as well. So that was one of the things we took out. Now, the other thing too is, so you're going to have your certain green space and you're going to have the other, we call the impervious surfaces. So impervious surfaces, initially we had 20%. In discussing with everything, it sounds like 40% is a more reasonable number. And that includes, because there's going to be a paved walkway that's going to be for public access. It's going to have, I don't know if it's going to be like a farmer's market or access for people to sit on the benches. And that also will help. So that's one of the changes there. Now, if you go back up to 2A, dealing with regionally native species, the problem with this, and the reason we changed it to them to incorporate it where it was reasonable, is, for instance, it was explained that grass, so naturally occurring grass that would be used for, like, say, a lawn in Pennsylvania doesn't last all winter. So the grass they use is the Kentucky bluegrass, and so Kentucky bluegrass obviously is from Kentucky. It's not native to the Great Lakes region, but that's the grass that's used for, if you would have. Oh, I'm sorry. There's this.
Same thing.
Yeah, on page 2 though. So I'm in 2A. So all the grassy areas wouldn't even qualify for regionally grasses, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like that way. And the same thing with flower beds. If the flower, and the goal for the flowers too is not to be replanting new flowers, every single year, but you want to have it that they can do the native species but still be the ability to upkeep the landscaping all year round, or hopefully not have it killed during the winter season. Going down to paragraph 3, the only change that was made to 3 was, you'll see in the middle of that paragraph, vehicular use areas. So the addition was the parenthesis for that excludes excluding emergency vehicle access. So I think the idea is that we have all this square footage that's for open space or green space and for public access. But what if there's an emergency, there's a fire, and so for, like, say, an hour, certain places are off limits due to the emergency. Now, it would make sense. You're like, well, that's an emergency. No one's going to complain about that and maybe measure the square footage. But there's a possibility that one whole street or maybe the whole area is cut off from public access. So in those areas that are cut off from public access, they would be below the square footage requirement for open space. So that's why that's the exception that is listed there. So also the other change was, so the only word we added at the, let's see, the next last sentence says it was fee-based access. We changed it to permanent fee-based access. So that would include, that kind of like, so in case like someone was, had asked the hotel, hey, can I have my wedding pictures taken in the morning? And maybe they would close off, part of the green space so that people could take their pictures, but they would only be there for a little while, and then they would leave. But that's not a permanent thing that they do. It would be a special occasion, it would be a rarity. So that's why we added the permanent. But otherwise, the fee-based access or private reservation, that is all the same. Number four, this was a change that reflected, we had some original language that kind of was dealing with lighting that affected the birds or migratory species. So instead we rewrote it to really make it more broad, because part of the calculation in this goes towards not just lighting. So lighting does affect some migratory birds or some other animals, but also the glass in the building as well. And so lighting doesn't really deal with the glass specifically. So having the reflections be pro-bird would be helpful as well. So that's why that was rewritten to kind of incorporate both lighting and the glass or anything else that would affect birds or wildlife. Number 5 was originally written to deal with facades, the walkway area, public accessibility. But when we were looking at it, we're trying to translate that into the proper language. And so this really was changed that with the idea of public access in mind is that, just like the zoning code says, they're supposed to have it be harmonious, but then we wound up adding this last 2.5 lines that says, we also shall avoid physical barriers, design features, or site elements that would reasonably discourage public entry, pedestrian activity, or engagement by citizens or business invitees. So it says that you still have to do the public access, but we're also adding in there that you can't design something that also would discourage it. So it's, again, give them the flexibility to design it, but also that's in there. Number 6. Now this was originally, so I'll go to 6A. So this was originally, there was one public bench for every 25 feet of building facade. And I believe there was some confusion on how to calculate. That was at the height of the building, was that, or along the waterfront, it does say along the water's edge. So we ended up changing it from 25 feet to 40 linear feet. And then that way, when you do the calculation, it would add a number of benches. And so then also doing some mathing or guesstimating is that you could get up to, so then we figure there's roughly 3 to 4 acres that encompass, the Hampton Hotel, the proposed Marriott in that area. And with that, so it was like if you get to, it seemed that a number that was reasonably math-wise, 8 benches per acre. So if you have 3 acres, that's 24 benches. If you have 4 acres, that's 32 benches, all for that particular area. And that would, again, they're supposed to be comply, and then have them be complying with 306.2D and 306.5B, which is that they have to be, of good quality, weather resistant, and that they would then need to comply with the ADA and the zoning code. Now, the other change, let me go back here a second. Yeah, so the last part of 6B, so it would be the last page, at the top there, is that, so they shall bear no commercial advertising, which is already in the zoning code, but there was a request that would exclude donor plaques. So say if I wanted to donate the cost of the bench, it could say provided by, Jason Check, solicitor, and that the plaque would be no more than 6 inches by 12 inches, and it would be like a metal or bronze, like a plaque you would see for something similar to that. So, because that would reflect on who made the donation. But still, no commercial, advertising. So, that seems reasonable under circumstances. And then there was a change in 6C. And in general, so they still would include, the owner would still do all the maintenance costs. But we wanted to change it, again, to keep it with the language, it's got to be reasonable. So reasonable cleanliness, regular repairs, and replacement of the structurally unsound benches within a reasonable amount of time. So the goal is, if they would be clean at all times, because at the all times phrase was in there twice. So I think there was some fear of like, well, can we clean it at all times if it's the middle of winter and it's buried? Are we going to be able to do that if we have like Snowmageddon or something? So it should be reasonable though for it to be, dug out, again, with like everything else that would be dug out. And then the benches within a reasonable amount of time, that was changed in part because the benches, probably there's not going to be a store, like a benches in storage ready to go. If they have to send it to the manufacturer, it has to be shipped and then it has to be installed and painted or such things like that. So that seems like if that could take more than 30 days, so whatever a reasonable amount of time is to get that reinstalled properly, not just get some bench in there that doesn't meet the qualifications of being weather resistant and of good quality and the other things. And then number 7, my original thing had in here about management and operation. We replaced that with maintenance, and that's in the 4th line down of the hotel. Because really the maintenance is kind of like, we want the hotel to be in good shape just overall. We don't want it to be like an abandoned building or something of that nature. So those were the changes that were from the first version to this version.
Any questions or thoughts from council?
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Chet. I want to thank you, the mayor, and I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Titus for helping to aggregate all of the comments or information to the degree that we could from the public hearing to be incorporated into this document. I think, I don't want to start calling names, but several people from the microphone, whether they spoke about the bird lighting or some of the open spaces that the Sons of Lake Erie had concerns with, or mostly the things that were promised in phase 1. And so it's good work. I appreciate it. And I just want to say that publicly to you all here. Thank you. I think Kathy submitted some help on that too. So yeah. Thank you so very much.
So I do have a specific constituent's voice who's in my head right now when I ask the following question that's going to come to the architect here, is if we could go back to the, under number 2, talking on section A, the consistent with general landscaping criteria that shall include regionally native planting materials where reasonable. So I guess I just would like a little bit more clarification as to why we wouldn't want regional native plants. I know that there was a definition to, we don't want to do maintenance or we don't want to be replanting every year. To me, that's not a very convincing argument. So I would still like to see native plants be.
Well, the goal is not to exclude native plants. The goal is that native plants, like the hardier strains that would fit, that meet the criteria would be used. So, I mean, Mr. Weber, who's the architect, he's here. I think he would give the better answer. Yeah. So,
would you feel comfortable just kind of sharing a little bit more thought on that part? Thank you.
Sure. And just so you know, I'm a licensed landscape architect as well as an architect. So the issue with
is that mic on the green light?
Yeah, it
okay.
is. I'm sorry.
It just was closer. Hard to pick up, yeah.
So the issue when you're talking about regional native landscaping, so there's a couple issues with that term, and the first one is what we consider regional. That can be pretty subjective. What is the region that we're going to identify, the geographic region of what that is? So if we take that to the most strict point, which would be things that are regionally native to Erie, Pennsylvania, or Erie County, The issue with that is that a lot of our native plants here, in regionally native plants, don't do well with salt. They do really bad in urban conditions. And that's one of the reasons why we bring in other varieties that do better under salt conditions, do better under heavy snow loads, things of that nature. So Harbor Place is very much an urban condition. We have Front Street, we have a lot of parking, we're going to have a lot of salt being used, we're going to have a lot of snow removal being used down there. We all know Erie. It's also very brutal and very exposed. Other piece of regionally native landscaping is that typically they're more shade tolerant and they do less well in highly exposed areas like we have down at the Bayfront. Highly exposed by sun, highly exposed by wind, weather, and all of those, where you can even tell that even some of the plants we planted in phase one, have been struggling. Natives would do even worse in that scenario. There's certainly a place for native. We certainly want to use native every place we can, but we also need to have the flexibility to put in plants that are going to last longer and aren't going to need replacing. The other biggest issue with that is because the language included lawns and grass, there is no regionally native lawn grass in Pennsylvania. They're sedges. Sedges are great grasses. They're wonderful. We use them. We just use them out of Penn State Barren. But they're clump-forming forest grasses, right? And they don't mow. You can't use them for areas where you want to have picnics, where you want to kick a ball, where you want to throw a frisbee, where you want to have active recreational spaces. So if that were to be, that language in there, then suddenly automatically excludes us being able to use any lawn areas for our public space. And that just is, in my opinion, just doesn't make sense. We want spaces that are usable by the public. We want the families to get out there and be able to use these spaces. So that's one of the reasons why we just felt that we needed to be a little bit more clear about that language. Still allow natives, still encourage natives, but don't be so exclusive to just regional natives.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions while he's up at the mic? Anything? We were also given a packet that we have over here by Mr. Ed Kissel, and I'm not sure that everyone's had the chance to review this. A lot of this, I think we had seen before, and it was talked about at public comment before. We are past like that public hearing spot where most of this now should be with us asking any questions or any follow-up just so that we feel comfortable with the vote that's going to take place tonight. But are there any questions that we might still have that would help a counselor decide which way they would like to vote or feel confident in the vote that we're about to make?
President Titus, I have a concern, question, I guess, because I don't want any of the people to lose public fishing access. And would people still be able to have the ability to fish in like mooring areas that are around the hotel?
I don't know if that is off the public pathways that's where it's still taking place. So that one I'm going to definitely deflect to.
Right. Well, kind of in line with what you said. So the hotel doesn't abut up to the water line, and that there is, I believe, about 20 feet of access from the water line inland that is supposed to be reserved for the public at all times. That includes around the convention center and around this property that we're talking about as well. Mm-hmm. And so from that point of view, if you're within that 20 feet, you're able to do your fishing or hanging out or boat watching. So
who owns that part? Is that under the Port Authority?
That would be, well, if it's with the convention centers, with the convention center. Okay. If it's with the Port Authority, it's with them. Okay. So, but the part that the part that's just past like the putt-putt, mm-hmm. That's owned by the Scots, but beyond that still is up into public access. That's just
and that's written within the ordinance too.
Yeah, I think that's part of an easement that goes back whenever that was formed. So
he wanted to go down and post no fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the Harbor Place project, the Scots own 11 acres, and that 11 acres is broken into 3 sections. at the end of Holland Street Pier, north of Front Street, south of Front Street. They do not own any land up against the water. That whole border, which is about 35 to 40 feet, it's actually a very wide concrete path that exists out there today. That is all owned by the Port Authority. So the Port Authority owns all the land bordering between Scott Enterprises, Harbor Place, and the water's edge itself. And within that, the Port Authority has put in lamps. I believe they put in some benches, and I believe they have it all paved. So that's covered. The Scotts really have no ownership or control over that itself. And then in the waterfront zoning, if by any reason anybody along that waterfront or anyone on the waterfront actually owns water up to the water's edge, they are required by zoning to give 20 feet back to the public. So that doesn't really apply to Scotts because they don't own that land anyways. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, thank you. I knew that, but I just didn't want anyone having the availability to say, like, would be able to go up and say, no longer able to fish in this area. I don't want anyone being not able to fish in that area. I want people to be able to fish. You know, I don't want someone going up to them saying, you're no longer able to fish here or anything like that.
I think you make an incredibly valid point, and when we talk about equity and access, and I know that those are terms we say a lot, but when we break it down, what that looks like is some people need that for access to food, and that there are some people who do not have access to Presque Isle who use these fishing points as their means to the water. So that as we are thinking through this, I think that's very important to make sure that we're not precluding anybody from their access to the fresh water.
I want to thank my colleague Shaw for bringing that up as well. Because I grew up at the foot of Sassafras, and it's just as cultural, the land, and everybody don't go out on a boat, but for long as I've been a kid, I've fished around wherever there's a pocket of water, all around the Blasco Library, all around the Port Authority property, and it would be a travesty to see someone be able to come out and post no fishing.
Are there any other questions for this part of the meeting for the caucus?
I can't remember when LERTA is done. Like, I think it's been extended in 2024 or something. Do you remember the date when it's not available?
I think that ordinance, when we passed it, was an additional 5 years. I want to say that businesses can apply for it. So it would be subject, the ordinance would be renewed probably, I think, 2029.
And just for clarity, so once they apply for it, they get the 10-year tiered.
All right, I thought you meant the actual.
Yeah, so that they have 5 years from when we passed it to apply, but once they apply, they get that 10-year tiered.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason Check, because that's actually what I wanted to know. Like, so after 2029,
Council would have to
There's no
take it up
longer-
again. Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
You must have been in my household. Or at the county, when it came before us at the county, I voted against LERTA. And the reason why is, forget the name on the COTA, because it doesn't matter to me who it is. But if you get a quarter of your property, of your project paid for, I would think that you would be the person or entity that would say, where do I pay my taxes? Not, I'm going to, and they've done nothing wrong or illegal because that's what the program is for. But I wouldn't expect, with the state of our city and the state of our community, you would hope that they would run and say, well, where do I pay my taxes? Not the 10-year graduated or deflating, So I'm glad to know that it's over in 29. Again, I think that it's easy when we just say, 10 years. But what happens in 10 years is you get a child go from kindergarten to out into the workforce practically. So you've had a whole generation of students who we survive on property taxes, our schools. So you've had a whole generation of children cycle through school without benefiting fully from that project. And then the next one comes, it's another 10 years. And the state of the city, we can't afford that. I didn't think we could afford it when we did it. And also with and I'll say this and be quiet, also with that LRTA thing, it was a blight designation attached to that. And the reason I voted no from the county, because I strongly believe then and I believe now that there's nothing blighted below Front Street on the Bayfront. And once that was able to be manipulated, then it opened the door for all of this stuff. But LRTA is, I don't think we'll realize the tax eventually, and we'll get to 18 months of construction work, but it'll be a whole generation of kids who cycle through before they even get the benefit from that. And I don't care how much development you do. And it's going to take all three taxing bodies, but I don't care how many cranes in the air, how many flags on them cranes. If we don't help fix our school district, then nobody wants to move here or live here. For Christ's sake, we had the hearing. There was a lady sitting right next, doing public hearing, talking about them being overrun by mice, 2,000 mice. And I'm here to tell you that development, all of that development didn't come without a cause. It drove rodents, mice, skunks, woodchucks, raccoons, those people into those neighborhoods. And people are still dealing with that. And of course, I find no fault with anyone who would want to go and ask for a LRTA. I have my belief on it. But it's it's hard to reconcile asking them not to apply for a LRTA when we have the Erie Events, who pays no taxes into perpetuity. So the Sheraton and the Marriott are the two #1 performing hotels. They're flagship hotels. Clearly they're for business, and the state has chosen to put that millstone around our necks. Like I said, into perpetuity, we can't do anything about it. And so if I'm a developer, then I want a 10-year tax break because they don't pay anything. They haven't volunteered to pay anything, haven't volunteered to pilot. They see the state of what's going on here. Our families are living in filth. And so it was really uncomfortable listening to the first half of the public hearing while the developers were sitting here almost like, hurry up and get this over. I want my hearing. And this lady's telling you she's got mice overrun by mice. That was very disturbing. And so in 2020, you can't get here quick enough to end that LRTA because nothing below Front Street is, first of all, blighted. And our citizens deserve a better return on their investment. More than if we build it, they'll come. I get the developer gets something. I get the tourists get something. I get the citizens get the promise of the taxes coming into full fruition in 10 years. But I don't get where it makes sense for our children, saddling our children with that. I don't get it.
It is 6:30, so we need to move from caucus into the public meeting. So we'll just take pause here, we'll reset the stage, and then we'll convene again for the public meeting. order.
Roll call for the special meeting of Erie City Council on Thursday, April 30th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. President Titus,
Here.
members Flores, Horton, Pohl,
Here.
Shaw, and Troop.
Here.
Councilmember Brzezinski is absent.
We will stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion for approval of the minutes from the Wednesday, April 15th City Council meeting and bills for payment on May 1st, 2026. Members Flores,
Yes.
Horton,
Yes.
Pohl, Shaw,
Yes.
Troop, and
Yes.
Titus.
Yes.
Yes.
I skipped us. I apologize. Sorry, I moved us out of order there. That's on me. We have no presentations this evening. Do we have anybody here to speak on a repository sale? Anybody here to speak on a repository sale? Anybody here to speak on a repository sale? This will move us into the public comment. I would ask that you, when you come up, you line up on your right, and then that way we can keep everybody kind of lined up over here. Please be mindful that we have 5 minutes, so when we have the timer go off, please be mindful of that so we can listen to everybody, and then just state your name clearly and your municipality clearly for the record. Thank you.
Elizabeth Stanton, Harbor Creek. Please pardon me, Madam Mayor, and council members, for being redundant in my reading tonight. I got to get my glasses.
Would you mind stating your name again as well?
Elizabeth Stanton, Harbor Creek. As I say, this is going to be a redundant reading tonight. April 1st, when I did my first reading, persons were not here at that hearing. Therefore, I am doing my second reading. I would like to place the area of Erie known as the West Bay Front into its historical context from a book, Journey from Jerusalem by Sarah Thompson, an illustrated introduction to Erie's African American history, 1795 to 1995. Mr. Horton, I think you would be interested. When I did this presentation before and I got the book out of the library, it hadn't been out of the library since 2016. I went to the library to get this book out for this presentation. It was not available, and there are 4 people on the waiting list. So I'm glad to see that that book is being used. In the 1820s, William Himrod bought a large tract of land along Lake Shore's waterfront, south to 6th Street, from Sassafras Street to Cherry Street. This land he divided into small house plots to sell at affordable prices to Black Americans with the requirement to build their homes and live there. By the mid-1800s, this area became a thriving center of Black culture known as New Jerusalem. Black churches, Black schools, Black businesses, and the home base for the Black baseball team,
Pontiacs.
The shift in the lakefront property ownership in Erie from Black residents to white is well documented. Throughout the 1900s, discriminatory practices of redlining and urban renewal policies such as FHA lending in white-only subdivisions severely impacted this Erie neighborhood, limiting opportunities for Black residents to maintain their homes and build equity. This left Black people with little or no wealth transfer of home ownership to their children, while white parents could save, invest, and leave a wealth inheritance to their children. Demographic breakdown of data for 2026 indicates that this census-designated area of New Jerusalem with a profile that is predominantly white. Gentrification in Erie's West Bayfront over the past 50 years has created significant pressure for low-income, long-term residents. As investments flow in, causing the influx of affluent residents, the poor long-term residents are being squeezed out. Thus, Erie City, Pennsylvania, is repeatedly ranked in the first 3 of the most difficult cities of USA for Black Americans due to the massive racial inequality in home ownership. I believe that the Scott enterprise building this hotel on the Bayfront continues this pattern of squeezing out long-term, low-income residents of Erie from participating in Bayfront activities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Anna McCartney, and I'm from Northeast, and I'm here to talk about the Bayfront development and the fact that for years I wrote an article, a page in the Erie Times News about the environment for the Erie Times. And I know all of the places along the Bayfront. There are many, many public parks in Northeast, Fairview. You just go a whole way along, and people have access to be able to get on the lake. The one place that people don't have a wonderful place to go, a park to go and have a picnic where they don't have to buy anything, because a lot of the people that live in the city don't have money to go to the restaurants and to the places where we're just filling up the Bayfront with. I hope that you guys will consider that the people who live in the city, who have the least amount of money, deserve to have a park or some place that they can go to that has bathrooms, that has a place where they can have picnics, because everybody else in the county has those things available. Why don't the people in the city have that available? And so I hope you'll consider when you're giving permits and deciding on what kind of development happens on the Bayfront, that we keep in mind the people who actually live here. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment?
Teresa Imler, City of Erie. Quick comment, just kind of want to toss it out there. I know that Scotts have had a lot of different developments in properties, again, throughout the county. And how many of those were done by different tax programs like LRTA in Summit and different places? And how many of those properties did they get the benefits from and then up and leave them and then leave the county municipality with some bricks and some concrete and no more business and no more employees and no more anything? So I really just want to consider, we keep doing things like this throughout the county, worried more about the city right now, but if we're going to do things like this, are we going to actually expect that these people are going to stick around, or we're just going to have another empty shell in a few years? Because we've got a lot of programs going on right now. We don't know what's going on in the marketplace. We got the other big building on 12th Street. I don't know what we keep expecting the city taxpayers to take on and not benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Julie Hurt from from Mill Creek. I know this hotel is probably going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it, but we need to start building for the citizens of Erie and Erie County and stop building for wealthy people that we want to come in and visit us. This hotel is going right across from the peninsula, which is one of the biggest tour attractions in the area, and we're putting a hotel that's going to blast light everywhere and disrupt the nature that is on the peninsula, which is our biggest tourist attraction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Peter Lyons, and I just want to make a couple of remarks.
Oh, which your municipality?
What's that?
Your municipality. Where do you, like, what city do you reside in?
I live in Mill Creek.
Okay, thank you.
In 1988, I opened a restaurant at 3rd and State, and up until last year, I owned a property inside Modern Tool. So I've been in downtown Erie for 38 years. And I remember when I first opened, there was no convention center, no hotels, absolutely no economic growth. As I leave there last year, I noticed that we have wonderful hotels, a first-class convention center. Hammett Hospital is probably, I don't know, doubled in its capacity. Erie Insurance is probably tripled in size. Gannon is probably doubled its footprint. And I guess I'm a pro-economic person, and to grow, cities need money and economics to come in. And I think that the hotel that's being proposed is rather unique. I looked it up on the internet, and there's only 122 of them in the entire United States. It's a very unique hotel, and all the hotels in Erie bring in tremendous amounts of money, which is great. I think they employ a considerable number of people, and I guess I've seen the change in 38 years, and it was due to people investing and companies, expanding. And I think that's very important for any city, is to have capital that can make the city better. And that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, my name's John Deegan. I actually don't live in Erie. I live in Meadville. But I've worked in Erie for the past 25 years for Scott Enterprise. And I will say, one of the things I want to speak about is because I've heard a lot of mention about citizens in the city and things like that. And one thing I don't think is being appreciated is that Scott Enterprise provided me with an opportunity to grow. I was a young guy with no direction in my life, and I was a mess. I had a GED. I drank a little too much, and I had some problems, and I was a dishwasher in the Meadville Applebee's. For some reason, these folks saw my hard work ethic, and they appreciated me as a person, and gave me some opportunities that I may have never gotten a chance to have. And here I am now, 25 years later. I'm an area director for Applebee's. One of the greatest accomplishments of my life. I never thought I'd be here. And I will say that what we need to do and consider is that when they're building these properties, they're providing opportunities for people like me who really didn't have any direction in life and gave me a chance to grow. And I'm thinking that, we definitely need parks and we definitely need things, but the economy needs to get better. People need to make money. and they need to have jobs. And what these folks do is they take risks and they provide opportunities to people like me who otherwise may have thrown opportunities away that we had, you know, and taken some risks and maybe not worked as hard as others, but we had another opportunity to work hard, roll up our sleeves, and provide ourselves with opportunities. These folks believed in me. I appreciate them tremendously, and I'm here advocating for them because of the opportunities that they provided, and I think that this city would tremendously benefit from that. And they're continuing to look for ways to grow and provide these opportunities for people and make it a more fun and attractive city. And I just think that there's a lot of negative things being said about it, but I just really think that people need to appreciate Scott Enterprise a little bit more for what they've done for people like me and people like the folks that the citizens that these folks are talking about. They need opportunities as well, and these folks do it. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
My name's Jennifer Robinson. I'm from Wattsburg, but I do work here in Erie, and I work for Scott Enterprise as well. I never was ever dreamt of being in the hospitality business, but 10 years ago, an opportunity was presented to me. I started out at the Hilton Garden Inn, working at the Safari Bar and Grill as a waitress. My boss then decided I was not a lifer as a waitress, as I did a well job, and decided that I needed to move on to bigger and better things, which now I'm an executive housekeeper, which I've been for 8 years now. Enjoy my job, enjoy the people I work with. The Scotts have been very, very nice. I cannot even say one bad word. They're generous, they pay very well. They've given me an opportunity to grow into something that I never dreamt that I would even possibly do in life. So I thank them, and having a new hotel down beside us would benefit a lot and add more jobs for the people of Erie. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Generette. I'm from Mill Creek. I'm also the incoming president and CEO of Visit Erie. I would like to voice Visit Erie's strong support of Scott Enterprises and their AC Hotel project. Scott Enterprises has a proven track record of delivering high-quality hospitality projects that contribute to Erie's visitor economy, resulting in more than $1 billion in visitor spending annually. The Hampton Inn and Suites Erie Bayfront has demonstrated strong performance since its opening, and the addition of a second, upscale property will only enhance the visitor experience. Visit Erie is committed to supporting initiatives that expand Erie's tourism product and strengthen our regional competitiveness. We believe this project will deliver substantial economic benefits, create new jobs, and reinforce the Bayfront as one of Erie's most important economic engines. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Erica Fulmar, and I reside in Lawrence Park. I would like to say, too, I work with Scott Enterprise. I've been with the company for a few years now. I am located at the Hampton on the Bayfront, and yes, it is a very busy property. It's a beautiful property. I will tell you, Scott Enterprise is highly involved in all of their properties. One of the best management companies I've worked with. I've been in the industry, the hospitality industry, for over 23 years, and I enjoy working for the company. I think they're wonderful. We have a great staff with the hotel itself, very low retention rate. We offer very competitive wages and opportunities for our employees to advance. I had a couple of front desk agents who move their way up in the ranks to a front office manager, or they move up to a supervisor role. So there is room for, we need more employees in this area. And I think with adding that new hotel, we'll be able to deliver that. And I just think we need this for the economy as well.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak for public comment? Anyone else for public comment?
Nick Scott, president of Scott Enterprises. I'd just like to say that I've been at this a long time, and it's been a kind of a joy to have this developments go on. It's makes me very happy, of course, when they're successful, but I know that what we're doing, especially now with this bayfront, is an iconic vision of what we can produce down here, because there are only certain places in the city where you can have big development going on, because big development is only attracted by the chance to have a profitable enterprise. And so the bayfront has, with what the convention center has done, and what we have done, and what the others have done there in the past, is going to be a strong economic pull for Erie. It's going to create taxes that can be used for all these things that the people that live in Erie want to do, and it'll make the city more able to do those things. So Andre Horton made some comments, and I've been a big fan of Andre's for quite a while, because he represents his cause very well, very intelligently, and he made some comments about the taxes that were not being paid by the Convention Center Authority, and I tend to agree with him, because of course we paid a lot of taxes. And just as an example, this piece of property that exists that we're building on now, we held it for 25 years and paid like $1 million worth of taxes and got nothing in return for it except holding the land. When all these things finally happened, even though when I bought it I thought what's going to happen is going to happen sooner, it finally did happen, and it's become more valuable, and we had the opportunity to put the Hampton Inn and the beer garden and Oliver's down there in the miniature golf, and it was through a lot of planning and stretching and help by the state government that we were able to do that, and it turned out to exceed the expectations that we have. In the 5 years that we've been there, we've paid $25 million, is that right? In tax, $5 million in taxes, in addition to the other $1 million we paid. So that money has been something that goes into the tax base and makes it possible for the city to do more and better things. The vision that we have for this project now is in 8 stages, and it will enable the CRIZ to bring money into the community, because these stages that we have of development will allow the CRIZ to fund the projects that will be very successful, and again add to the taxes that are coming in, and again bring more people to the convention center and bring more people into Erie that support all of the other things in Erie here. So I think what we're doing is a unique opportunity to do the development, and we've stretched ourselves to do something as good as we can do. It's something that's on the world-class side. And so we study restaurants, we study hotels, we put all our efforts with our team. We have a very well-developed team, my son Chris and my son Nick Jr., and our architects, Weber Murphy Fox, who have been helping us develop for over 25 years and probably more. And so we're at the point where we're here to put our best foot forward and do a great job for the city, for the county, and the northwestern Pennsylvania. So we hope that you will vote in favor of this and make our project something that we can start soon, because as developers now we face all sorts of difficult times. We face rising costs, which are extraordinary, and we're working to value engineer all those things. We face
Thank you.
uncertain economy that's going on and so forth, but we're willing to take the risk and go ahead and do all this, just like we did before. And so I think based on our track record of
I'm
development.
going to have to disrupt you. I'm sorry. That's the 5 minutes.
Telling
The
me to
timer went up.
stop, or
Yes,
what?
it did. The timer went up. I apologize. Thank
Okay.
you.
With our track record of developing a Splash Lagoon, which is a nationally known.
It really is 5 minutes.
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, I'm done.
Yeah, it's the public
Okay,
comment.
sorry
This
about
section
that.
gets 5 minutes. Yes, so thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? We've got a couple coming up. Go ahead. It's totally okay to line up too, so I don't have to keep saying anybody else. You know?
And we need some music to start playing us off too, I think. My name is Brian Weber. I'm with Weber Murphy Fox Architects. You've all heard from me already, so I just want to kind of reiterate a few things. Weber Murphy Fox Architects, we have been part of the Erie community for over 60 years, a company that was started by my father, and I'm very proud to be a second-generation owner of that company, and very proud of the commitment that we have made to Erie for over 60 years now. And working with Nick, I would have preferred the 20 years, but unfortunately, we have to show our age. We've been working with the Scotts for now 60 years. We're very proud of the work we've done all through Erie, very proud of the work we have done on the Bayfront in particular. Weber Murphy Fox, as many of you probably know, we designed, developed the Niagara Pier housing, the Perry's Landing Yacht Club, the original Liberty Park. We're the architects for the Bicentennial Tower. We're the architects for the Blasco Library. We're the architects for the museum and the berth for the Niagara. We have been architects for the UPMC campus, the Bluff condominiums, Gannon University, Erie Insurance, on and on and on. And we're very proud of the work that we have done over the years. And we are very proud of the work we have done and are doing with Scott Enterprises. When we began this master plan for Scott Enterprises, we made it very clear that this master plan was a balance between the developer's needs and the community's needs. It is a sustainable development. We wanted to make sure we included the parks and the trails and the greenways and the public spaces, as well as making sure we're meeting the needs of the developer and the economic development that the city needs. And that economic development has been recognized by the Economic Development Committee, by RACP, by CRIZ, and by other organizations that have worked very hard to bring development to Erie for our growth. I just want to reiterate, Harbor Place is the site of the old Front Street coal-powered power station. Wasn't housing. No land was taken away from anybody except Penelec, who left a very polluted piece of land. That piece of land went through a historic cleanup that won awards and set the standard for Phase 1 cleanup for the state of Pennsylvania for contaminated sites. And to this, we should be very proud that we are now today able to turn that into a usable piece of property for the city of Erie to use and to benefit for economic development. Additionally, I just wanted to reiterate that Harbor Place, per the agreements that have been made in the past, at the end of Phase 2, we are required to provide 33,695 square feet of open space. So how much are we going to do? Well, at the end of Phase 2, the end of this project, we will provide 28,300 square feet of publicly accessible parks and green space, 23,500 additional open space for publicly accessible plazas. There will be 9,400 square feet of public realm improvements. There will be 28,755 square feet of trails and greenways. And there will be 28,000 square feet of undeveloped naturalized areas, which is a requirement for us to be putting in meadows, restored meadowlands. That total is 117,777 square feet of open space. We're required, again, 33,000 plus. So I think we're very proud of the work that we're doing down here. We're very proud of the open space, and we're very, very happy to be working with the city to make sure that these requirements are met and exceeded every opportunity we can to make sure that this project works for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Todd Young. I live in Meadville, Pennsylvania, born and raised, but I've had the privilege to work in this city for the past 11 years. I vacationed in Erie for most of my life, to be honest. I kind of grew up in a family where we enjoyed the outdoors, so I'm an outdoor enthusiast myself, and we've always taken advantage of Presque Isle and the beautiful waterway in there and fished the peninsula. You know, lots of great attractions down there. I've had the privilege now for the past 6 years to actually work in the Harbor Place at Oliver's Rooftop and at the beer garden. And one of my favorite parts of hospitality is getting a chance to share the guest experience and building a relationship with them and hearing their stories and why they chose to come to Erie and why they chose to spend their time and their valuable, precious memories and choose Erie. And a lot of it has to do with the development that we have had down there recently. It's really, really catching a lot of attention in the neighboring cities and the neighboring states, and it's become a very desirable place. And I know firsthand that it's bringing a lot of people to the area, and they're getting that same chance that I got as a kid to enjoy our beautiful Presque Isle and our beautiful waterfront. So I just applaud everybody to continue to give that same opportunity to more people, and hopefully we get a chance to continue to develop that beautiful piece of land down there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Abdullah, Washington, Erie, Pennsylvania. You guys do a lot of construction. Everybody knows that. I just have to say, in this room, in this context, where are poor people going to live? Where's the development for the poorest among us? Just help us answer that question. Help us answer that one question. Where's the affordable housing? Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? This is very theatrical entrances. That's okay.
Ed Kissel, Erie, Pennsylvania. Just a few things that I've heard here, and I would direct council to take a look at the plan, the last plan that was submitted by the developer, to actually take a look at the green space that is down there and what is proposed in expansion of parking to qualify for the 140 rooms of the new hotel. The city was gracious enough through their zoning to give up on a variance about 79 places that are supposedly be for parking that the city allowed them not to have, or to have, excuse me. The developer also, I didn't mention, but I will, the Bayfront Parkway, PennDOT took some square footage from them along the Bayfront to the tune of $254,000 that they received in compensation for that area on their plans throughout from 2013 on. That shows that the proposal is to build some parking garages back in that area. So you'll see that maybe in your lifetime. It's taken from 1999 to 2013 to come up with the plans. From 2013, 2017, and finally the first hotel was built. In the overall plans that was claimed that council approved some time ago, there were 7 public parks called Pocket Parks that the city of Erie sponsored a $5 million grant for the first hotel to have some public park, not a playground, but where somebody could sit along State Street, maybe eat a sandwich from the hotel and view the water. On that map, what was discussed here, the concrete walkway down at the north end, north of the putt-putt, is about 21 foot wide. It is owned by the Port Authority, but the developer asked the Port Authority for 10 additional land space to make their putt-putt wider, and the Port Authority gave them that now. On the developer's plan, that was programmed for a 1/2 acre public park, which would be the ideal place that somebody could walk, sit on a bench, eat their sandwich, watch a boat come by or whatever. The other 1/2 acre is where the beer garden is. That was programmed on the original plan for a public park. That is no longer in existence. There has not been one public park put in the 6 years of development and the opening of that hotel that is for the public to go sit, other than if they want to go in the bar and you have children that are not allowed in there at certain times. As far as talking about the money issue, it was mentioned there was like $5 million paid for the taxes. Well, $5 million came in from a grant from the state, sponsored by the city of Erie, signed by Mayor Senate, that you have a copy of in your folder I left you, that stated by the mayor, who the city is the administrator in conjunction with Scott, to put those things in, or at least consider putting them in and doing it in the first years of that hotel being built. And I would ask council on all their projects that if a developer comes in and is offering public amenities, that those public amenities be done by the time development is okayed for occupancy in those areas. Currently, the developer has gotten a approval for $7.6 million under the Pennsylvania CRIZ program. That is a program where a developer can put $1 in and receive $5 for their investment. I would ask City Council that some conditional uses be put in on this current one to the point that we get some public parks built where they're viewable, and there's only a few green spaces left when you get done with the parking and the expansion for the new hotel. One of them is along State Street, the entrance going out of the parking lot on the west side. There's another area along Front Street and State Street, which is a dog park. I don't be that, there's a container there to walk your dog and some plastic bags for him to, for the individual to put them in. But look at the plans and the pamphlet I gave you. Now, I don't know if you're going to go into executive session after this and look at some of the information I put in there. There is a diagram of city's waterfront showing what has been taken up for public access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Martha Wachugu, City of Erie. I'm not necessarily going to speak to the vote tonight. The land was sold when I was either a sophomore or a junior at Edinburgh. These decisions were long made in rooms and meetings that most of the public at 1, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. cannot attend and don't have the access to. What I'm going to talk about is the long-term vision and the economy that we're building, not only for new adults like myself in their 30s, but my little brother who's 18 and the children in our current school district. And you usually hear me talk about very localized issues, but I'm going to try to talk about the bigger picture as well. We're currently living in what they call a K-shaped economy. People are seeing what is working for them based on where they are. If you are very wealthy, if you're the 10% wealthiest people in the city, county, country, you're seeing gains, you're seeing capital gains, you're seeing your stocks rise, you're seeing a lot of good money coming in. But sitting in front of me here, I see a retired teacher, a vet slash construction worker, a social worker, a home care worker, a former city staff, an educator. Most of the people in your positions are on the bottom half of the economy. They're in debt, they're taking out loans, they're falling behind, they have healthcare crisis. And we have long before I became an adult with a voting voice, we have sold our economy off to the biggest profit makers in our economy. It's not even just about the working class people and the poor wages they make. It's about the little business owners who can't compete with the mega business owners who have the money for the lawyers, the attorneys, and architects to outbid and shrink and put other small businesses out of commission. And so, like I said, I'm not going to speak to the vote tonight. I think it's going to happen. It was long determined before me. But I want to talk long term. The downtown corridor, it seems like it might be gone. The Bayfront seems like it might be gone because we have put profit over people in the interest of public land and use. But when it comes to the Lower West Side, when it comes to the Lower East Side and beyond, as a Pittsburgher, I want to know that we're planning for an economy that protects the people and residents who live there currently. I want to know that we're working for an economy where at the last public hearing, they could not answer directly if they pay what wages they started their workers on. If wages kept up with inflation, it would be $26 to $32. I want to hear Scott Enterprises saying that they're starting their workers in an economy that is struggling at $32. I want to know that their workers are getting health insurance. I want to know that they're putting funds into their students or the people who want to go to school and stay here in the Erie economy. And I didn't get to say it in front of them the last time they were here. As a Pittsburgher, I grew up with a legacy of multimillionaires giving back to the communities. We have Shenley Park, we have Frick Park, we have Carnegie Library, we have the Carnegie Music Hall. We have so much. I want to know that what we are building is not just for their pockets. I want to know that they're giving directly in a way that the citizens, the educators, the social workers, the home care workers can feel it. Like I said, I'm not speaking to the current vote, I'm speaking to the future and to other Erie residents that don't believe that this is actually going to serve them. Thank you.
My name is Hugh McCartney. I'm from Northeast. The one thing that I haven't heard here is, and I would have to address you guys for this, is where are the public bathrooms down there on State Street? Where are they? How can you go fishing and go to... Would you invite me into your hotel to go to the bathroom? Could I fish out in front of your hotel?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
But would you invite me in there? Because I have been turned away in the current hotel right next to the library down there. Because I walk in looking like I do. They have no idea what my background is. They don't know that I was a computer scientist. They don't know you. I got turned away.
Where?
We can't hear though with the,
Okay, sorry.
I know that.
I was down walking from State Street toward the library, and I wanted to go to the bathroom. And that's your hotel down there, isn't it? At that hotel, you can't, it was like guarded. You can't get past the desk. So, I just want to bring that up. The other thing is, I think that these guys are on a shoestring budget. I really do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming here asking for some tax dollars, asking for a grant, asking for you to sign off on that kind of money. No, I don't believe that they can fill these rooms. Maybe in the summertime, certainly not in the wintertime, unless you run a special for the kids at P&P. And I know that because I used to be a ski instructor. So nobody comes here as a skier and stays in town. They're not filling these rooms in the wintertime. I challenge them to show us the figures. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? All right, anyone else for public comment? All right, we will go ahead and move on.
Okay, we have no ordinances for final passage or first reading, so we will be moving on to old business. In old business, City Council tonight will vote on the waterfront conditional use request on behalf of Scott Enterprises for construction of a new 8-story hotel containing 139 guest rooms, 3 restaurants/bars located at East Front Street in a waterfront conditional use district with the following conditions. Number 1, the developers and/or owners of record must abide by the conditions imposed by the City of Erie Zoning Board as part of their approval of a variance on or about July 8, 2014, and that said variance is hereby incorporated as if restated in full and in particular. For each additional square footage of real estate created by the height variance, an additional square foot of open space is to be dedicated to the public, excluding parking lots. Number 2, further open space shall mean areas of maintained green space that satisfies all of the following criteria. A, it shall consist of living landscape material, including grass, ground cover, plantings, shrubs, and/or trees consistent with the general landscaping criteria set forth in Statute 306.5, and landscaping shall include regionally native planting materials where reasonable, and B, that impervious surfaces shall not constitute more than 40% of any qualifying open space area, and such impervious surfaces shall be limited to walkways, paths, and bench pads serving towards public use of the space. And number 3, further, the following shall not count towards open space. Calculation under these conditions: parking lots, enclosed or screened areas from public view, rooftop amenities not accessible from the grade, vehicular use areas but excluding emergency vehicles access, any area subject to permanent fee-based access or private reservation, and/or any mandatory public access consistent with 306.1. Number 4, further, the developers and/or owners of record shall make reasonable efforts to incorporate bird and wildlife-sensitive measures intended to support the safety of birds and/or migratory species. Number 5, the developers and/or owners of record shall design and construct the site to be welcoming, publicly accessible, harmonious in character, and shall avoid physical barriers, design features, or site elements that would reasonably discourage public entry, pedestrian activity, or engagement by citizens and business invitees. Number 6, the developers and/or owners of record shall install and/or maintain public benches pursuant to the following conditions. A, the minimum ratio should not be less than 1 public bench for every 40 linear feet of building facade fronting the bayfront's water edge as measured along the primary waterfront facing elevation of the structure, whereas fractional results shall be rounded up to the nearest whole bench, but not more than 8 benches per acre is required. B, the design standards of the public benches shall be constructed of weather-resistant materials consistent with Statute 306.2D and 306.5B, shall be securely anchored to prevent displacement or removal, shall comply with ADA accessibility or be adjacent to an ADA accessible path, and shall bear no commercial advertising consistent with Statute 306.2H, but excluding donor plaques not to exceed a maximum size of 6 inches by 12 inches. And C, the owners of record shall be responsible for all maintenance costs, including reasonable cleanliness, regular repairs, and/or replacement of structurally unsound benches within a reasonable amount of time. Number 7, further, the developers and/or owners of record shall comply with all policies and procedures above to the extent not otherwise inconsistent with federal law, Pennsylvania law, City of Erie ordinances, and/or other law applicable to design, construction, maintenance of a hotel and/or restaurants and/or other business enterprises that may occupy space within the buildings constructed as part of Phase 2 of the Harbor Place development. Discussion?
Councilors, anybody something for discussion?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Titus. Thank you, Ms. Watson, for reading the resolution. kind of alluded to my comments earlier. It's really it's really hard to reconcile, I guess, these haves and have-nots, or reconcile what's going on as far as development, which is always nice to have cranes in the air. It's hard to reconcile that stuff when our citizens are coming in saying that they're being overrun by mice. And as fate would have it, we had that hearing on the same day. And the contrast was very, very striking, and it was disturbing even. And so I'm not going to vilify anybody or anything, because everybody's doing what thus says the law is. But I was a trooper for a little while. Talked about the law. We also talked about the spirit of the law. And I think we need a lot more spirit of the law around here. I get the intent. And as uncomfortable as I was sitting here listening to the comments from the public that night of the hearing, I hope the Scots were as equally as uncomfortable as I was. And if not, I'll just say it's hard to sit there and have a lady tell you that, mice are jumping up on all her cabinets and she'd rather go stay in the shelter. And that's just a microcosm of what's really going on in this town. So it's not the Scots' fault. It's failed policy on the city. And we've let some things go too, and we acknowledge that. And it can't be the answer to everything. But the hard part of reconciling it is when you have 1/4 of a project paid for, even though state money is taxpayer funding. Successful, all the hotels on the Bayfront are probably the #1 performing under their flagship, or whatever, the Marriott. For the convention center, #1 performing, Sheraton, #1 performing. And I guess if any of our local businesses didn't have to pay taxes, they'd probably be pretty good performers too. The part that's hard to reconcile is that I know that that isn't an isolated incident, because every day people are running looking for housing. We're going to have another waterfront conditional use in front of us here shortly. And so it's not the Scots' fault that the law is such as it is. And if I'm an eligible homeowner, I'd apply for some stuff too. And if I'm looking at my competition, who doesn't have to pay any taxes into perpetuity, with $1 billion worth of assets, I mean, come on. They own Jerry Oak Park, not you. Warner Theater, Tullio Arena, the convention center itself. #1 performing Sheraton, #1 performing Marriott, 2 parking ramps. And they came and they always ran into the same situation that we had on the hearing night. So they told us how fabulous the project was and how much it's needed. But we had public comments that night too. And to see the citizens just overlooked, like I said, let's hurry up and get this over and have our hearing. It was deplorable. And so I'm going to vote yes for this, because it's down the road and it's here before me. But I need you to know that I voted no before I came over here from the county. When the LERTA came up, it goes to school district, comes to the city, county's last. I want you to know I voted no on the LERTA, because situations like this, both times voted no for the extension as well. I want you to know that it would be hard for me to say no while the convention center pays nothing. I want you to know that in 2019, and just bear with me. It's ironic because my very first vote on county council was to refinance the convention center. All the 40-year, 35-year legal beagles, accountants said, oh, nothing would happen. And it was a 6-1 vote. I voted no against it, and of course something happened. So in 2018 or 19, when the CARES funding came out, right off the bat, we had to give them $2.97 million. It came back like a year and a half later, they got money out of our general fund, like $2,100,000 or something, and then they hit us a third time for a little over $2 million. We've given them $7 million. We haven't received any type of return on our investment, except for if you build it, they will come. They split a hotel, tax with Visit Erie and the Erie events. And I think that there should be something, our state representatives should add an additional tax to at least come back to the city so we can address some of our housing needs. I won't belabor much longer, but I am grateful for the development that the Scots have done in our region. This is their first outing in the city. I think I heard them say that that hotel was the #1 performer in their inventory as well. And so, yeah, you know, Erie's it's like the Monte Carlo of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we got that coming. But as someone who grew up at 2nd and Sass, someone who grew up at Short and Sass, someone who's a lifelong resident of New Jerusalem, someone who was the labor steward for the convention center itself and the parking lot and the Sheraton, someone who worked on every leg of the Bayfront Highway that's designed not to bring people into the city of Erie, but to divert them around. It chases commerce out of the city. I want you to know that I'm offended. I am offended that people that live on top of that bluff, it doesn't even look like it used to look, they won't be able to afford a night of occupancy in either of those hotels. I'm offended that we run in here and say, well, we do competitive value. We give them $15 an hour. We fought for $15 an hour 10 years ago. The median income in this city is like $17,000. I'm offended because we're sitting right here in 16501 tonight, which is always in the bottom 5 of the most distressed, poorest, worst situation for black and brown people in America. And I would be remiss if I just came in here and voted and said some stuff to you to make everybody feel good like we're playing in the sandbox. I hope it does make you uncomfortable. I hope it makes you as uncomfortable as it made me. Had I had the ability, I would have walked down there and told that lady, come here, let me put you up in a room for a couple of nights or a week or two while we figure this out. Because I don't think that any human being could sit here and listen to that story and not feel what some of us felt up here. And so it's a yes vote for me tonight. But anything coming down the pike, Lerda, Chris, or whatever, you can count Andre Horton against it moving forward. When our first opportunity to do away with it, I'm a yes vote, do away with it. And I don't care whether they vote for me or not. So thank you.
I'll comment next. I'm just going to highlight the importance of wages. As someone who I've worked with Erie County United for the Fight for 15 for over the last 10 years, I can say that when you have developers come before you and bring a bunch of workers who are not the hourly workers, who do not live in the city of Erie, and tell us how great of employers you are, it's kind of insulting, especially considering I've worked and lived in the city, so I have a lot of friends and family who've worked hourly jobs for the Scots. And it's insulting that you think that people don't know that the minimum wage kings are not paying adequate wages for the workers. And then I understand that the hospitality and the food industries are where you're making your bread and butter, but as a home health care aide who works with elderly and disabled people, they're not going to your hotel. They're not able to afford it. Even your hourly workers, who you probably cap at 25 hours, maybe even 30, at the minimum wage of, let's say it's 15, they can't even afford to stay in your hotel either. So when you come before council, especially when it's local residents who live and work in the city, please make sure that you have the numbers for your wages and what you're paying the little people who hold up your business. Because I know that your guys' price points are way out of what the $17,000 salary in the city can afford. So at the end of the day, I'm echoing Andre Horton on the LRTA. That's going to be evaluated. The tax exemptness that some of you developers get, that's going to be reevaluated, because these are decisions that were made prior to me being here and prior to other council members being here. But the good old boys club is not going to be able to have a reign going into the next 10 years, especially with the economy that we have. Smoky Bones just closed. So how many more restaurants are we going to lose before all of this is fixed is really what we need to think about. But anyways, neither here nor there, but I just want you all to know that minimum wage jobs are a problem in our community, and we need to address that.
I just have a few things. I've been back and forth on this decision since it came up in front of us. And looking into everything and listening to all the comments with the public hearing and this evening, I just don't feel comfortable, but before it gets in front of council, or by the time it gets in front of us as a council, it's pretty much a done deal. And that, I think, has to change. I think that's what we as a council need to work on, because the citizens don't have a say before it gets to council. You've been working on this project for years, because I follow everything on the Bayfront, and to exclude you from saying, well, you can't build. I know it's private property, and telling you can't when we tell everybody else that they can, from the boats that are down there that were never there before. I remember when the Bayfront Highway first came in, to all the new businesses down there. We've had a lot to absorb without much say as a public. And because I was on the other side before, I was on the citizen side of the building, and everything was finished, it was done before it got to this dais. The CRIS, I mean, that's no fault of yours, that's a previous whatever, but as we move forward, that's something we could change. CRIS is good in a sense where it helps the everyday citizen plus businesses, but the everyday citizen can't afford to build or to do additions to take advantage of that 10-year. So I have nothing against, I know it's going to pass tonight, and I just hope, I appreciate our president and our solicitor for making these changes that we asked for. I think we could have asked for a little more, but we're within that period of where we have to vote. So I will probably vote yes tonight, because there, it's it's not something that should be done anymore, especially where it's within our city and our bayfront. There's not much space left on our bayfront to be able to build. We need to be able to support our citizens to be able to go down to not just the Liberty Park area where they can enjoy a playground or, they need to be able to access a hotel if they want to spend a weekend with their family, like they do in Mill Creek, and be able to afford it. And that's the big deal. Your average citizen in the city can't afford to stay not just at your hotel, or any of the hotels on the bayfront. And, that's something we might have to look into. I don't know how it will change, but it probably won't. I'm just going to stop there. I just want to make a couple points known and to thank you for putting those additions in, and hopefully, you keep the public in mind when you are building and to not block our citizens out, because, when the pocket parks that were supposed to be there, that's now a beer garden, and then right next to it is a putt-putt. I don't feel comfortable taking kids to that putt-putt with the beer garden next to it. But that's just me. So I just hope, you are able to build what you need to build and just remember the citizens of the city. Thank you.
Dr. Titus, thank you. I won't say a lot because a lot's already been said. Plus, I have a job where I talk all day, so. I've been looking at number 5, though, in the resolution. I was looking at that in the, and one thing I heard Councilman Horton say was when he was in law enforcement, they looked at the spirit and the intent of laws. So I'm looking at number 5. I'm just going to read it aloud. It says, further, the developers and or owners of record shall design and construct the site to be welcoming, publicly accessible, and harmonious in character, and shall avoid physical barriers, design features, or site elements that would reasonably discourage public entry, pedestrian activity, or engagement by citizens and business invitees. So I guess I want to defer to our solicitor, if maybe he could explain to the public what was the intent and spirit of number 5. What was the thought behind this number 5?
The thought specifically dealt with public access. So if I refer to the zoning code, section 306.1, which discusses public access as a required element of any waterfront district development, the language there is saying that you've got to give public access, and then it goes into a bunch of things that would help that. However, so to take this one step further, though, so we've kind of summarized that language in the first 2 lines, but after the part where it says harmonious in character, it says, shall avoid physical barriers, design features, site elements that would reasonably discourage public entry, pedestrian activity, or engagement by citizens or business invitees. Those last 2.5 lines, where it says you shall not discourage, is not in the zoning code. So really, that's a condition that is new, but reflective of the intent of what council had requested, and also I think the spirit of the zoning code. That's how I would interpret or explain it.
Is it, basically afraid that the new development could discourage people from being around them? I'm just trying to...
No, kind of the opposite. Because it says you're supposed to give public access, right. But say there's something designed, maybe there's a fence or a row of hedges that seems like a barrier. Okay? What we're saying by the last 2 lines is they can't do something that looks like an obvious barrier.
Right.
So, but you're still, again, providing flexibility to comply with the zoning code and then comply with what we're requiring. Like I said, it's the last 2.5 lines aren't really reflected in the zoning code, but this is to say that if something looks like a barrier and smells like a barrier, we're saying, no, you can't have that.
Can't have it. Okay. All right, that's all I had. I just wanted to have that explained to the public. Thank you.
Dr. Titus, is that something, Attorney Check, that we should look at amending to add to the zoning code? Is that something we should talk about offline? But
I think it's something I think it's probably something to discuss, because.
I don't want to get in the weeds over
Right,
it. I just thought.
right. We've discussed about revisions to the zoning code. This is something that should be on the list. That's what I think.
My question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor.
Thank you, Dr. Titus. Thank you, Marty, for mentioning who we are. I'm 64 years old. I have lived in Erie my entire life, and I have worked 40 years at St. James School. Parochial teachers get paid way less than public school teachers. And so I raised my daughters to enjoy life as free as possible. We have gone to Splash Lagoon occasions because they're very social and they got many birthday invitations there, and it is a wonderful place. I have had the opportunity to have great family experiences, relative experiences outside of Erie. My brother lives on an island, and it's near Annapolis. I have visited many, many hotels and things along the shoreline, east and west of America, because of generous family, relatives, and friends, and wedding invitations, etc. Because I'm a person who believes commitment is important. And last year, we had 2 weddings that were expensive, and I had a great experience. Most of the places I absolutely love to go have benches along the shore and areas. My grandparents lived on 5th and Ash Street, and because we were very close to them, I spent a lot of time in the Dobbins Landing area. And my daughters live in Florida, and one of them graduated from Mercyhurst University in hospitality and hotel management. For her, it didn't pan out the way I wanted to her. Everyone makes their decisions. And so she lives away from me. My husband and I spend a lot of time. People would be absolutely surprised how much time we spend at the Dobbins Landing area. And I go to the beer garden if we have a visitor from out of state come in and they're looking for something to do, and we have enjoyed our time there. And we have relatives from different states and out of town, and they have frequented the hotels, and they have enjoyed their time there. And they have mentioned how hospitable the hotels, and not just yours, but the Marriott and the Sheraton as well. I am committed to helping Erie as much as I can. I understand we need economic vitality. And because of needing the taxes, whether they're going to be next year or 10 years from now, and because of the CRIZ, we do have an opportunity to help our city. I enjoy the music from the beer garden when it's available without being in the beer garden, by being along the walkways. And you can actually hear it if you're walking all around. I'm sure people on the bluffs can hear that music. So I'm at a point where I want to have an investment where people like Mr. McCartney, though, could use a restroom. And there are public restrooms at the towing place until 9 o'clock p.m., where the mini golf course that was owned by the Stankeviches, there is public restroom there. There are toilets, outdoor toilets, which I'm not happy about, outside the tower. I wish we could go inside the tower and use toilets without having to pay now, but now you have to pay and buy something in order to use the toilet. And then there is the Blasco Library, which has openings until 8:30 at night, but not on the weekends, where you can use public restrooms. I'm all about public restrooms, believe it or not, because I will tell you, you need them. And I want them. I want to see them at all the parks. And anyways, so I feel the needs of the community. I wish that, we wouldn't keep comparing ourselves to Cleveland and Pittsburgh and all the big cities that I love visiting. I was just in Chicago for a wedding in November, and I could go on, but I'm not going to go on. But I just want you to know that I get it, and we're in a crossroads. But I do want to finish with, so I went to the convention center when the Jefferson Society had the famous physicist who, I can't remember his name right now, Neil deGrasse. And that place was absolutely packed. And I was talking to Ferky, and he did say how popular the Jefferson Society has become, where it's just not eerie going to those events. We have spread ourselves out, where people from many different states all across the country are coming to hear the speakers there. And so if the convention center, it was packed. I had to park by the old mini golf and walk to that because there was no other parking anywhere available. So in that instance, if there was another hotel, anyways, I'm sorry I'm rambling. Thank you.
I feel like there's a thought that was going to come right at the end there. It's okay. I am There was a lot that has been shared up here. I know it has been a long day, but I have to put on honestly, I have to put on record as I'm sitting in this seat, I take it really seriously. Our children are watching. My children are watching. They're going to watch this video again in the future. Probably not now because I'm kind of boring compared to the things that they're doing at home. But I genuinely want to emulate the values that I want them to embody. And similar to what Councilor Horton had shared, legal and permitted is not synonymous with what is right. And then I can't say that enough, that oftentimes very unethical and unmoral things have been permitted, and then they're allowed to happen. Where I am struggling is I have a deep value system dissonance with the decision that is before me, knowing also the purview that I have in the jurisdiction that I'm in with these ordinances and as they exist in the process as it exists before me. I do not think that this development is for the betterment of the community. I don't. And I've been pretty vocal about that. I don't agree. I think that this is a very glamorous trickle-down economy system that is being paid and held by the residents of our city. And as I'm sitting here, I mean, if I'm being honest, because that's how I am, I'm even scared to say some of these things out loud. And if I'm feeling nervous to say some of these things out loud as the council president, I can't imagine what some of the residents must also be feeling. I have a lot of privilege in the way I get to move through the world, and I have a voice and a microphone that other people don't have access to. And I also know that I can't change a person's value system while I'm sitting right here. I can't. That takes a long time. And change only moves as fast as trust, and I don't think I have any of your trust, which I accept. But I do have the trust of the people who have voted for me and who expect me to verbalize what they need me to say. And when it comes to this, this is private property, but I'm also, water is, how do you privatize access to that, right? And so that is where I am deeply struggling. And I guess what I would ask of you is to not forget the residents who work in there every day, and those who don't have access, and they will not have access, and they're watching themselves lose access to things that they had access to as children. And I think it's easy for us to kind of sit up here. It's also not lost on me that most of the people that spoke tonight are the same, we're lacking the melanin. Right? And I think that those people who came up and spoke and worked for it didn't reside in the city either, and that also was not lost on me. I'll conclude my remarks because I understand the legality of the ordinances that is in front of me and where I am and where I am not allowed to move. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a strong value conflict here. All right. Any other counselor? We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Pohl.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Troop.
Yes.
Titus.
No.
Resolution. The resolution passes 5-1. Council President, this takes us to committee reports.
All right. It is with great hesitation I ask us to go through our committee reports. We'll start down with Councilor Troop.
I don't have a report today, Dr. Titus.
Councilor Pohl? Councilor Flores?
No report.
Councilor Horton?
Yeah, I have a report, but in light of, I'm still just a little heavy over this vote because I understand my legal limitations. I came here prepared to vote no on this vote as a protest, but in all practicality, this thing is down the road anyway, and I want to say to the citizens, because most of the people that came here and spoke for it, they have a stake in it. I don't think we get the return on the investment that we should. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about me going to land bank meetings or blighted property meetings or any of the other meetings that I attended this week. Kind of feel the same way about this that I do about celebrating 250. That's like black people wishing they were back in Dixie, which is preposterous. Very disappointed in myself for not being able to better articulate this to the public and them hearing it for the first time at the hearing. And I can tell you, in the interest of full disclosure, my conversations with the Erie Convention Center Authority, I believe that there should be more public engagement on that project, and I believe that there should have been more public engagement on this one. And maybe there was 10 years ago, 15 years ago when this started, but if I look at that view, like Erie's like traditionally 25, 30 years behind other metropolitan cities. So by the time we get it, other people have learned the lessons from it. And just case in point, most of the places that we run to talk about their waterfront, they're tearing concrete out. They're making it more grassy, making it more, here we are, come Johnny come lately, we're putting in roundabouts and walkways. So we got it behind. I don't know what my predecessors did or had on their mind, but I give the citizens of this city my word. Whether it's down the road or not, I will not just play in the sandbox, look good to play in the sandbox. I will vote every time, no matter how it feels or how it looks, in the best interest of the citizens. Because right now, voting for a hotel while our citizens are living in filth is disgusting.
I think I said just about everything I needed to say before as far as the report. The other thing that I will encourage everybody is to remember we have a local election coming up. We are voting for state representatives and up and down the ballot. We've got some local races for the parties, so make sure that you are registered. That deadline is coming up. May 4th, I believe, is the last day to register to vote. And remember, we are a closed primary state, which means that you have to be either a Democrat or Republican to participate in the primary election, and you can change your registration after, but I do think it is important that as we see, local politics, they matter. They matter in so many things. So that'll be my report for this evening, is just remember to register to vote, make sure you know where to vote. If you've moved, that you update your registration, because by the time we get in front of you at the next meeting, that voter registration window will have closed. So with that, I will offer over to the solicitor or the mayor for any reports.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I didn't get a chance to
I'm
speak.
sorry, Ms. Shaw.
That's
Go
okay.
for it. Yes.
I am going to have a report, and I apologize, but I really believe in neighborhood watches, and I was at the Booker T. Washington Center, and I really encourage as many people as possible, if you want to get involved with a neighborhood watch group, which is not going to have the term neighborhood watch anymore, maybe a new name, because it's not about being vigilant, but it's about being committed to your neighborhood and helping your neighborhood as best as you can. And there's many home repair grants that are out there, and that's a way people can learn about them by attending these neighborhood watch groups and knowing about curfews, that, you know, we do have curfews. There are cleanups, and you can get involved with neighborhood cleanups. And I appreciate the people who, for many years, have been working on these groups in their neighborhood communities. So many people have been doing it for over 20 years now, and would love to continue to see that grow. I did attend the water meeting and the Water Authority meeting, and May 3rd through the 9th is a drinking water week, and there's going to be a drinking water festival. And you want to get behind the scenes look at Erie Waterworks state-of-the-art water treatment plant, which is going to be held Saturday, May 9th, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Richard S. Washaleski Water Treatment Plant that's on 399 Summerheim Drive. So that's the one that is headed towards the peninsula there by the elementary, I think it's Tracy School that's out there in Mill Creek. But there's going to be games, giveaways, food trucks, face painting, activities provided by the Waterworks team and partner organizations. So parking available will be at Tracy Elementary School. So I just want to get the word out there for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize again, Councilor Shaw. Okay, if there's no other reports, then we will go ahead and conclude tonight's meeting.
City Council adjourns at 8:10 p.m. Members Titus, Flores, Horton, Pohl, Schaaf, and Troop.